There's a village on this planet where if you spit outside, your saliva turns into a solid piece of ice before it ever hits the ground. People call it the whisper of stars because the sound frozen breath makes when it crystallizes in midair is actually audible, like a tiny crackle right next to your ear. Now, hold that thought, because on the exact same planet, there's a valley where the ground gets so hot that scientists have recorded surface temperatures close to 94 degrees Celsius. Hot enough that a fresh egg cracked onto the pavement will fully cook before a food truck could even get you a napkin. Same planet, same species living on it, and somehow both of these places have permanent residents who will tell you with a completely straight face that they wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Today, we're doing something a little different from the usual list format. We're going deep on just one contrast, the coldest inhabited place on Earth versus the hottest. Because honestly, the story is too good to rush. And stick around for the end, because there's a third place, one most people have never heard of, that might be the most quietly perfect location on the entire planet. Let's get into it. Part 1. Oymyakon, where winter never forgives. Let's start in Siberia, in a village called Oymyakon. Population, roughly 500 people, give or take whoever didn't move away that year. In 1924, a Soviet researcher used a mercury thermometer here and watched it freeze solid at negative 71.2 degrees Celsius. For reference, that's about negative 96 degrees Fahrenheit. Dry ice, the stuff used in fog machines, sits at negative 78 degrees Celsius. This village gets close to dry ice temperatures as a matter of regular Tuesday weather. Here's where it gets genuinely wild. Cars in Oymyakon are never turned off. Not overnight, not while running errands, not ever from about October to April. If you shut the engine down, the oil inside freezes into something closer to solidified honey, and the vehicle will not start again. Sometimes not for days, sometimes not until spring. So residents either leave the engine idling in the driveway, or if they have to park somewhere longer, they'll build a small fire directly underneath the engine block to keep it from seizing. Yes, an open flame under a car on purpose as routine maintenance. Burying the dead becomes a multi-day operation. The ground is frozen so hard and so deep that a standard shovel is basically decorative. Families have to burn a fire over the burial site for hours just to soften the topsoil enough to dig, and even then it can take 3 or 4 days of this process before a grave is deep enough.
And here's the detail that always gets people. Eyelashes freeze together. Not metaphorically, actually freeze mid-blink from your own breath condensing and icing on contact. Locals have a name for the sound your breath makes when it flash freezes in the air. They call it the whisper of stars because it sounds like a faint, dry crackle right beside your ear.
So, why does anyone live here? Genuine question, and the answer is oddly moving. Most families in Oymyakon have been there for generations, tied to reindeer herding and hunting routes that predate the Soviet Union itself. It's not that people can't leave, it's that home has a gravitational pull that a thermometer reading can't override. Worth sitting with for a second. Okay, take everything you just heard, the frozen eyelashes, the engines that never sleep, the graves dug with fire, and now flip it completely upside down. Same planet, same rules of physics. Wildly different result.
Part 2. Death Valley, where the ground itself becomes a weapon. Death Valley, California holds the record for the highest air temperature ever reliably recorded on Earth's surface, 56.7 degrees Celsius or 134 degrees Fahrenheit back in 1913. Some meteorologists still quietly debate whether that 1913 reading was fully accurate by modern standards, but even the readings everyone agrees on for more recent summers have topped 54 degrees Celsius, which is still absurd. Here's the thing people miss. Air temperature and ground temperature are two very different numbers. Because dark rock and asphalt absorb and radiate heat, the ground in Death Valley can run 30 to 40 degrees Celsius hotter than the air above it. Park rangers have measured surface temperatures near 94 degrees Celsius on the valley floor in peak summer. That's not hot enough to fry an egg as a cute expression.
Someone has literally done it on camera for a park demonstration using nothing but the pavement. This is also a place where the National Park Service tells visitors without irony to avoid hiking after 10 a.m. in summer. Not be careful, but don't do it. People have died doing this. Search and rescue teams here have recovered hikers who suffered fatal heat stroke in under 2 hours from the trailhead. Your body's ability to sweat, which is normally how you survive heat, actually works against you here. The air is so dry that sweat evaporates instantly, so you can become severely dehydrated without ever feeling like you're sweating much at all. It tricks your own warning system. And yet, permanent residents exist. A small population lives and works in Death Valley year-round, mostly tied to the National Park Service and a handful of family-run outposts. One general store there has been run by the same family for decades, selling ice-cold drinks to travelers who arrive looking like they've just crossed the surface of Mars. So here's the irony worth sitting with. Oymyakon's danger is the air itself trying to kill you slowly through cold. Death Valley's danger is the ground trying to kill you quickly through heat. Two completely different physical threats on the same planet, and in both cases, humans looked at it and said, yeah, we'll just live here.
Now, after 2 places actively trying to end your life through temperature extremes, let's talk about a location that does the opposite. A place so mild, so balanced, that its biggest claim to fame is basically nothing bad ever happens weather-wise. Part 3. The Goldilocks place. When neutral becomes extraordinary. Meet the Canary Islands, specifically Tenerife, off the coast of Northwest Africa, but technically part of Spain. Locals and tourism boards have nicknamed it the Island of Eternal Spring, and unlike most tourism slogans, this one is almost boringly accurate. The average year-round temperature hovers around 20 to 24 degrees Celsius, that's about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with barely any seasonal swing. Winter lows and summer highs in Tenerife are separated by roughly 8 degrees Celsius total. Compare that to Oymyakon in Death Valley, where the single-day temperature swing can be more dramatic than an entire year in Tenerife. Here's the science behind why. The islands sit in a sweet spot where cool Atlantic Ocean currents, steady trade winds, and a mountainous landscape that blocks extreme weather systems all combine into what climatologists genuinely refer to as one of the most stable, temperate microclimates on the planet. NASA has even used parts of Tenerife's volcanic terrain to test Mars rover equipment, not because it's extreme, but because the lack of extremes makes it a stable, controlled testing ground.
And the almost comedic payoff. While Oymyakon residents are lighting fires under their car engines and Death Valley park rangers are pulling exhausted hikers off the trail by 10 a.m., Tenerife's biggest weather-related news story in a given year might be it rained slightly more than usual in November. That's it. That's the headline. 3 places, same planet. One where your breath makes a sound scientists have a name for. One where the ground can cook an egg faster than your stovetop. And one where the weather is so relentlessly pleasant that it barely makes the local news. What all 3 actually prove isn't just Earth has extremes. It's that human beings will adapt to, settle in, and even fall in love with almost any environment this planet offers, from the most brutal to the most boring. That adaptability might honestly be the strangest statistic of all.
If this kind of deep dive, one topic at a time format is what you want more of, let me know in the comments and subscribe, because episode 2 is going to take the same approach with a pair of extremes that might be even harder to believe than this one.